Welcome to Business AI Today. I'm your host, Randall Scott White. This is the place where businesses come to learn about real applications of artificial intelligence and get the use cases they need to implement them in their own businesses. Today, we're talking about robotic process automation, or RPA. What is it? What do you need to know about it? Why and how will it be present in your organization now through the year 2025? Our guest is Tom Taulli. He's an expert in RPA. He writes for Forbes.com, Bloomberg, Kiplingers, and Business Week. He's also written a variety of books, mostly on tech and finance. His latest is Artificial Intelligence Basics, a non-technical introduction. Tom, welcome to Business AI Today.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, well, so what is robotic process automation for those who are just becoming familiar with the term?
So robotic process automation, or RPA, is a technology, software technology. It's not a robotic technology in the sense of a physical robot. And the interesting thing about the term RPA, which was coined about 10, 11 years ago, is that it doesn't necessarily do a good job of describing what it is. Because when you hear robotic, you think, oh, there are robots running around like at a Amazon warehouse. And no, it's robots on computers, or bots. Usually they're called bots on your computer, and usually in a workplace. So it might be in a department like a finance department or a marketing department, sales department. And what you're looking at, the automation part of RPA is spot on. And actually process is not the best word either. So it's really using a bot on a computer to help automate what's happening on those computers to free up employees' time so they can devote their time to better things. Do you want your employee to spend all day doing a cut and paste, for example, from one ERP to a CRM to, that happens millions of times throughout the United States. And that's not the best use of a high-paid, white-collar employee. So RPA is a way to use technology really on any type of system to automate that and to improve worker productivity. The result is that the ROI tends to be high, and that's why RPA is very successful and is a high growth industry. In fact, it is the fastest growing part of the enterprise software market. It's roughly up about over 60% last year. So it's growing very quickly, and you're seeing a lot of venture capitalists pour money into this sector as well. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Is it a natural extension of the macro in a spreadsheet where now it's just automated intelligence that can make determinations of what should go in there instead of human data entry?
Yeah, good. That's a very good question. It's not a macro. A macro is something that would be specific to one application. So if I'm using Excel, I can use a macro language to automate some of the processes, but I can't use the Excel macro to automate my ERP and my CRM and the hundreds of other applications that are used in an enterprise environment. Right. So a big differentiation between RPA and a macro is that it is wide scale. You can and it's more about recording any type of key press or mouse movement on a screen. So you go record those, and you can then automate those processes. So in terms of maybe an invoice coming in, it'll do certain things and make sure it's done that way every time. Macros are very powerful, by the way. Not to say they're bad, but it's not what RPA is.
So when we can take an RPA and scale it across the entire organization, almost like an API middleware that can work with all these different programs, and if it analyzes keyboard log events from ERPs, CRMs, how many passes through a machine learning does it take for it to really get its stuff down to where a business can see ROI from implementing it?
Brings up another misconception about RPA.
That's why we're doing this.
That's right. RPA is not AI. RPA is actually, for the most part, a very simple technology. Uh, but simple can get you in trouble very fast too. Now, I did write an article. You're probably referring to an article I wrote in Forbes last week about how AI is starting to handle those activities, but that's just starting now. A typical RPA system is really basic. The hope is that you will look at your company's processes before you even use RPA.
Mhm.
And you'll say, are we doing this the right way? And if we are, okay, now let's automate it. Let's literally work with the employee, go through the steps that he or she takes, and then that'll be recorded. And then we can go in there and adjust them on a workflow and then save it as a bot. And every time we need to do that workflow, it does it perfectly. It's not generally, it's not analyzing various employees' activities and come and finding into these processes and then coming up with the bots. Now, Automation Anywhere just recently announced their bot discovery system, which does that. But most RPA systems don't do that. But the future definitely is AI. So the AI will start to automate this because it is a tedious process to go through all this and to create these bots and then to manage the bots. I
Yeah.
mean, if you have 50 or 100 bots running around, you have to have people to manage those. And some people say, are you really getting productivity increases when you have to have a whole another layer of people just to manage bots?
So is that why companies max out about 20, 30 bots at the organization? There's just not enough people to manage these new technologies.
Part of that is bandwidth. The companies failed to realize early on that you need a commitment, organizational commitment, change management commitment to the technology. And scale has been the big problem. Scale has also been a big problem with AI too. Um, and some companies have been able to do it, but very few have. I think the other part of problems with scale is that companies get too focused on ROI. So they're always looking for big opportunities to make big differences. The problem with that is there may be only a few of those in your organization. So if you truly want to scale technology, you're going to have to look at those areas that produce lower ROI, which actually could, well, so the funny thing is that, if you get a big ROI in a very small piece of your business, it's not going to move the needle for your whole business. But if you get a small ROI that impacts a big part of your business, you might actually move the needle for your organization.
Right.
It's a change of mindset, way of looking at things that companies they're starting to see, but I think that's been a problem with the AI market, RPA market.
So with artificial intelligence, a data scientist could go out there to a variety of free AI libraries and they can build their own system.
Mhm.
With RPAs, how does the market serve the need for it? Are companies trying to build them in-house? Are there top three software providers who are leading the market and
Mhm.
implementing that? And
Yeah,
how is the technology evolving, self-built versus out of the
yeah,
box?
yeah. But there are 70 plus RPA vendors on the market, which means it's tough for companies to figure out what to use.
Mm,
Generally, it's been three companies that have taken the lion's share of the market: so Automation Anywhere, UiPath, and Blue Prism. They've been around for more than 10 years. They have huge amounts of capital. They have thousands of customers. And when it comes to AI, they have a huge advantage. That is data. So if I want to, uh, you know, use RPA, a lot of times RPA is is a gateway to AI.
mm,
But if the vendor doesn't have a lot of access to data, that's going to make my job tougher to use that RPA system. But if UiPath has thousands of customers that leverage on that data, I'm probably going to get there. And also, I as an organization, if I can do out of the box AI, I'd do that all day long.
right.
I don't want to have data scientists running around paying for them and creating models and all that. So the problem with out of the box AI is that usually it doesn't, move the needle either because it's too general or doesn't really address the particular needs of my own company. But these RPA platforms, the major ones anyway, allow you to embed AI from, say, Amazon or Google or Data Robot. Data Robot's been doing a lot in RPA and forming relationships. So you could do your own data analysis, create your own models, train it, and so forth, and then embed it in the RPA system and create bots around that.
So when you go to an auto mechanic and they
Mhm.
run a diagnostic check on your car and they come back and say this X, Y, and Z is where we need some maintenance.
Yeah.
Do you see AI coming in with that diagnostic check of across a business and
Mhm.
recommending where to implement RPA for best ROI?
Yeah. So the big vendors, Automation Anywhere with their Discovery Bot is attempting to do that. UiPath bought a company that tries to do that as well. So these RPA companies understand that a key part of this is understanding and analyzing the processes. You can bring a consultant to do that, and that's fine, but that's not as scalable, be expensive. And a consultant might miss things as well. So there's a new technology that has emerged out of Europe that is trying to address this called process mining. It's been around for about 20 years. So it's come out of the Netherlands. In my RPA book, I have a whole chapter on process mining. So UiPath has bought a process mining company. Uh, uh, a variety of other RPA vendors have either built their own systems or bought one. Celonis is the major process mining company out there. They've raised huge amounts of money over the past year. What they do is they analyze log events or log files, from what are created from an ERP system or CRM, and then it creates visualizations of your processes in your organization. And then it goes beyond that. It shows where the bottlenecks are, what you can optimize, and it will continue to do that over time. And it's leveraging the log files with AI and machine learning to create these insights or come up with these insights. Primarily, this technology is, like I said, been mostly in Europe. I suspect in the next few years we're going to start hearing more about process mining here in the United States, and I think that'll be driven through RPA companies like UiPath, Blue Prism, and Automation Anywhere.
So if part of the key logging and you have a workflow process and it has to go through point A to T, let's say,
Mhm.
and in there comes a human element of signing off on something, a signature in that.
Right.
How do you incorporate in what's supposed to be a completely automated system, the human element you can't get around?
Yeah. Yeah. In an RPA system, it's called exceptions. So it's bringing the human into the loop. And it could, the classic case of this is credit limit. Uh, you know, that's probably a decision you want a human to at least sign off on before, maybe you don't want your AI robot to sign off because it's potential liability to the company.
No fully
Uh,
automated loans? You're
that's
crazy.
right. Especially to some of your customers. You
Right.
probably know some of these customers are, don't pay on time, and maybe they have shaky backgrounds. But AI can assist with that. It could score the vendor. It could use the data that we already have on that vendor to make better decisions. You still may have an exception for that, and have a human come in the loop, but the AI could be an assistant to that. I think there's certain areas. So, AI is still early. There's a lot to go. There's certain areas, you probably do want, just for the lawyer, not being on your back, to make sure that, certain things do have at least some approval, and there's, process. Great thing about RPA is you start really thinking about these things. So a lot of companies just organically emerge, and processes just kind of happen, and no one really writes them down, and they kind of get passed from, through this tribal knowledge. And it doesn't, it may have worked when the company had 5 people, but now there are 500 people. And and so the RPA system is a really good way to sit back and say, wait, are we actually doing this the right way or not? And or because of our processes, are we limiting our growth because we never really thought about this?
So if you're a CFO or CEO
Mhm.
and you're looking to start somewhere with a RPA, what's
Yeah.
the best department to start with? Finance, accounting, marketing?
Finance traditionally is the first place to go. Uh, it tends to be more structured. Less structured environments are not as good with RPA. Structure is great for RPA. The nice thing about finance is that every quarter, you have maybe financial reports. Every 2 weeks, you have payroll. I mean, there are these regularly scheduled events that occur, and
Mm.
they tend to be the same for every one of those events. And a lot of the processes that occur are highly tedious and repetitive. I mean, that's why business process outsourcing, BPOs, are big because companies don't want to deal with all this back office financial stuff. Why have white collar, high paid people doing this data entry? All these pretty much kind of mindless reports when you can have someone that might be, it's not like mindless, but lower skilled, lower paid workers. The result is that RPA may start to impact the BPO industry because why do I need to outsource what I've been outsourcing all these years when I can just bring it in house and have a bot do that? So finance is a great place to start, definitely.
So to kind of wrap it up here,
Uh,
what are your predictions on between now and the next few years and the biggest trends we will see happening in RPA?
A couple things is that I think we're going to see some IPOs in the sector, say from UiPath, Automation Anywhere. They've raised so much money, they're going to have to do something. And their valuations are almost too high for an acquisition. So I think we're going to see some consolidate. We're going to see some of those events. I think we're going to see more consolidation. Some of these smaller players are either going to go bye-bye because they can't survive, or they link up with some of the bigger players. So I think those 70 plus vendors over time, I think, are going to decrease. Um, Microsoft is going to become, they've already, in the last few years, have been making a big move into RPA. And I've talked to them recently. They got some interesting announcements that they're going to come out with, especially on the business model. I think Microsoft's going to be a big factor in RPA. Speaking of business model, I think that's going to start changing. RPA is not cheap.
Mm.
Go to an RPA vendor and look up pricing. You'll find out there is no pricing page. They try to keep that on the down low.
Right.
Uh, Generally, it is on a per bot basis, and it can be expensive on a per bot basis. I suspect over time we're going to see lower pricing, and we may even see open source start to emerge in this category as well, as providing more alternatives. Ways for more customization in some of these larger organizations. And then finally, AI will probably be the biggest factor for RPA. You'll start seeing more insights and judgments and data backed or data driven type of insights that come into play in RPA. And there's a lot of hype that that's what happens. That's what's happening now. It's not really true. But in the next few years, definitely AI will be a big factor.
Well, I think that's a fantastic introduction to RPAs for business leaders, and
Yeah.
very much appreciate you coming on. Tom Taulli,
Well, thank you.
the author of Artificial Intelligence Basics, a non-technical introduction, and the title of your RPA book?
It's the RPA handbook, and it is focused on how to implement RPA in your organization. And I have interviews with top players like UiPath and Blue Prism in the book, and also experts, consultants, and so forth to try to make that journey as successful as possible.
Sounds like the get started guide to get. Thanks again, Tom. Really
That's right.
appreciate you being here with Business AI today.
All right. Thank you very much.